Let me guess, you've told yourself, I don't have time for therapy. Between 12-hour shifts, charting, trying to have a life outside of work, it could feel impossible to squeeze in one more thing. I get it. But burnout doesn't wait. Anxiety doesn't wait. And your mental health, that definitely shouldn't wait. That's where Rula comes in. R-U-L-A. Rula connects you with licensed therapists who are in network with your insurance, often for as little as $15 a session. And get this, you could be matched with someone and start therapy as soon as tomorrow. No wait list, no calling around, no mental gymnastics trying to figure out if they take your plan. Rula makes it easy, affordable, and actually doable, even with the nurse's busy schedule. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's actually covered by insurance. Visit rula.com/nursemo to get started. After you sign up, you'll be asked how you heard about them. Please support the show and let them know I sent you. That's rula.com/nursemo. You deserve mental health care that works with you, not against your budget. Well, hello there. I'm Nurse Mo, and this is the Straight A Nursing Podcast, where I teach concepts and share tips on how to thrive in school and at the bedside. So today we're talking about a subject that comes up a lot with nursing students, especially, even new nurses too, and old OG nurses like myself, but mostly with the nursing students, and that is budgeting and how to handle finances, especially when they're really tight when you are in nursing school. So today I'm going to share with you a budgeting hack that every nursing student, and actually I think everybody, should know. This week's listener shout out goes out to CJ, who says, I love this podcast. I loved it during nursing school and love it now as a new grad. I listen to it still to refresh and learn more as I become more skilled. Nurse Mo keeps things simple and easy to understand. CJ, thank you so much for submitting that. And I'm so happy that the podcast is helping you even beyond nursing school into your job as a new grad nurse. Amazing. Alrighty, so we're talking about a hack, a budgeting hack that can definitely help anybody who is listening. It can certainly help nursing students. I remember being a nursing student and I know what it is like. I know for students it's really hard to work while going to nursing school. And a lot of students, if they do work, are maybe working part-time, maybe just picking up little side gigs. So financial stress is a really big contributor to overall stress in nursing school. I was really lucky. I did not have to work while I was in nursing school. I was married, so I got a small student loan every semester to pay for my tuition and to help cover, living expenses along with my husband's salary. So luckily, I was able to get through nursing school without having to work, but I know a lot of students do. And because I wasn't working and had to really, really be careful, budgeting was a huge, huge factor. Since I graduated, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I kind of threw budgeting out the window. I was making good money, and if I wanted something, I just swiped my card and got it. I'm not a big debt carrier. I always pay my credit card off at the end of the month. Though, honestly, there have been times where, it was a little scary, a little big, and I wasn't able to do that. But what I realized after a while of doing this, and I'm talking many years of living this way, is that it's real easy to swipe your card, right? Super easy to swipe your card. And then there would be times when I would look at my statement and be like, how in the world is it this much? What on God's green earth did I spend my money on? And then there were other times when I kind of knew my spending was a little bit crazy, and I would be literally afraid to look at my credit card statement. Sometimes what I would do is I would just throw a chunk of money at it, wait for it to hit so that the balance would come down, and then I would look. Like that's bonkers, right? Sometimes I would call my friend Michelle and say, okay, hold my virtual hand. I'm looking at my credit card statement, because it would be out of control sometimes. So I got really tired of that kind of roller coaster and honestly, a lot of impulse buying. So that brings us to our topic today. Because at that time, a few months ago, I realized I needed to get a better understanding of where my money was going so that I could save more money and spend more intentionally and have less financial stress. So, our topic today is we are diving into a budgeting method that's super popular on the TikTok, on the Instagram, on the YouTube, and it is known as cash stuffing. It is actually an OG system called the envelope system, but it's super trendy right now, and it might be just what you need to get your finances and your financial stress under control. So if you've got a tight budget or just want to reduce impulse spending like I did, or maybe you just want to know, hey, where is my money going? Then keep listening. All right, so first thing, what is this? What is cash stuffing or the envelope system? This is a budgeting method where you get cash, actual cash money, and physically separate it into envelopes based on spending categories. And I believe the origin is this is a Dave Ramsey thing. I really don't know anything about Dave Ramsey. I learned about this system just from, I don't even know how it came up. Watching some random YouTube video, it came up and I was hooked. So I heard about it from somebody else, but I do believe it is a Dave Ramsey thing. And it has kind of evolved into this thing where it was kind of an old school system. Now young people are doing it. They're going way into it with binders and making it all bougie and cute and aesthetic. You don't have to do that. You don't have to get all fancy. We'll talk about that too. But it's definitely a tried and true method. And the goal with this method, this cash stuffing or envelope system method, is to give every dollar that you earn, that you work so hard for, give every dollar a job. And what this does is it helps you prevent overspending. It can help you pay down debt and build up your savings. If that sounds good, I know it sounds good to me. How does this work? So I'm going to break it down step by step. Okay, so you might want to pull out a notepad and jot down some notes. But the first thing that you are going to do is figure out how much money you're making. So for students, look at all your income sources, right? This could be a part-time job or full-time job for some of you, a part-time or full-time job that you have, your financial aid, like student loans, any scholarships, things like that, and any side gigs, like maybe you do DoorDash on the weekends or whatever. Now, if you're a working nurse, I really, really caution you against counting overtime as part of your monthly income, even though maybe you always pick up an extra overtime shift every 2 weeks. Overtime is not always guaranteed, so you really should not be counting on it to meet your living expenses. Overtime, to me, is bonus money, right? Like, I'm going to work an overtime shift and then I'm going on a trip, right? So I would encourage you, especially when you're new, it can be really, really tempting to take on a lot of extra shifts for your own well-being and your mental health. Please do not do too much overtime. Okay, so step one, figure out your monthly income. What's coming in? And then step two is we're going to look at something called fixed expenses. So fixed expenses are those that don't fluctuate from month to month, or maybe they don't fluctuate very much, maybe by a couple of dollars. Examples include your rent. That's always going to be the same. Your mortgage, your car payment, student loan payments, your cell phone bill, all those types of things that are basically the same every single month. Now, something that you might forget to include, so I want to remind you, are annual expenses. So this might be things like your car registration, your car insurance if you pay it once a year, your Amazon Prime membership, your Costco membership, your Sam's Club membership, whatever it is, you may have some annual expenses. So what I like to do with those is tally those all up, divide them by 12, and now I have a monthly amount that is going to go towards these annual expenses. So those would be your fixed expenses, and that is step two. All right, step three, and this is a little bit harder. This is where we identify variable expenses. Now, as the name suggests, variable expenses are those that fluctuate from month to month. The best way to figure out what these are is to get 2, maybe even 3 or 4 bank statements and credit card statements. Comb through them, look at every single thing that you've purchased, and start putting them into categories. And what I like to do is just grab a spreadsheet, Google Doc or Google Spreadsheet, start putting things into categories, how much you spent, and then you'll have an idea of what you're spending per month on your variable expenses, okay? And the reason you want to go back a couple of months is just because you can kind of look at patterns. Maybe you tend to spend the same every month on groceries. Well, that's really helpful information to have, right? So that's why I want you to go back and look at 2, maybe even to 3 or 4, if you really have a lot of time to invest here, bank statements and credit card statements. Okay, so far we have figured out how much is coming in. We've identified fixed and variable expenses, or how much has been going out. Now we need to look at this and compare these two numbers. So looking at your fixed and variable expenses, not forgetting to include those annual expenses as well, comparing that to how much we're bringing in every month. And if you're spending more than you make, and I have been guilty of this, I'm raising my hand over here, or you're spending so much that there's no wiggle room for savings or for emergencies, then it's time to rethink what you're spending in some categories. And I know that's not what you want to hear. It's not fun, but cutting out things like random runs to Target or Home Goods when you're just bored, and I'm so guilty of that. I mean, I will just be like, oh, I'm going to go to Home Goods. That sounds fun. It is fun, but it's expensive. So cutting things out like that are unintentional, where you're using shopping as entertainment or dining out at restaurants. Those types of things may need to be paused until your income increases. So taking a hard look, a very honest look at your expenses and whittling things down if needed until your expenditures are less than your monthly income. And ideally, you've done this so that you do have some wiggle room for emergencies or for savings. And now at this point, you have a general idea of how much you're going to contribute to each of these categories every month. And then the next thing to do is to make the actual envelopes that you're going to put your actual physical cash in. Now, if you have gone down the rabbit hole on YouTube or whatever and looking at cash stuffing or envelope system videos, you know it can get real fancy real fast. I do not want you to think that you have to be fancy. Don't get sucked into that world of binders and custom envelopes and all of that, because that's expensive. And if you're trying to budget, we don't need to be spending money on things that we don't need. Yes, it's nice and it makes it kind of fun, but it's 100% not necessary. You can literally go to the dollar store and get envelopes and just write your categories on those and just go super simple. Now, one of the nice things about this system is maybe you start saving up, if you do like doing it, saving up to get some cute binders and custom envelopes. That's great, but you don't have to start there. I would also probably say don't get too overzealous and make too many categories. Start out with broader categories, and this can be really helpful at first as you get used to this system and really get a feel for how you're spending and where your money is going. And as you get more adept at this and your ability to predict or anticipate your spending and your discipline with sticking to a budget, then you can always add more categories if that's helpful for you. Now, I thought I would share with you the categories that I am currently using. Now, I do have a fair number of categories and probably more than somebody who's younger, maybe living with their parents or in their, an apartment, because I'm an old lady and I have a house and all this stuff. But I will share with you the categories that I use, and I'm not saying that you have to have these categories, but it might spur you to think, oh yeah, I do spend money on that. I want to make sure I include that in my categories. Okay, so we'll start with going over what I call my short-term kind of expenses. These are the things that I basically spend on a regular basis, like monthly. Okay. So here is what I have. Entertainment. So that might be going out to the movies with my husband or something like that. Gifts, because I have lots of friends. I'm very blessed to have lots of friends, and I like to buy gifts for people for their birthdays or just random times when I'm thinking of them. I have a clothing category because this is one where I can easily overspend and then be really nervous to look at my credit card. So a clothing category. Cleaning, because I do have a wonderful lady that comes and helps me by cleaning for me. So I have that in my budget. Pet care for Oliver. So I've got Oliver handled in my budget. And with that, I have vet. Now, I could combine vet and pet care to make it more simple, but for some reason, I decided I wanted to separate it out. So I have vet. And then I have utilities because I live in a house. Beauty products, because as you get old, you just start throwing money. You just start throwing money at beauty products because you'll do anything. And then health. This would be any product that supports my health, like supplements, things like that. Fitness, up until recently, this was my Pilates membership. I just canceled that. Now this is going to go towards like yoga classes, and it's also for my Peloton app. Then I have a category for digital subscriptions. So this is like my Apple TV, my Netflix, my iCloud storage, stuff like that. And then I have a home category. This is for stuff for the house, like toilet paper and cleaning supplies and items for the house. And then I have the pool service because we have a pool. And then lawn care, which includes getting my garbage bins cleaned, and the bird seed for the birds that love to come visit my backyard. So that's the stuff that I spend money on every month. And then I have my long-term kind of savings or spending categories. And these are things that I don't necessarily spend on every month or that often, but I want to have money kind of put away towards them because they will come up. So I have emergency vet. So I do have this separate from Oliver's regular vet because I pay a monthly fee to his regular vet as part of a membership. And then this is an emergency vet fund because the emergency vet is very expensive. Just walking in is $1,000. So I want to have that set aside so that if Oliver does need to go, hopefully he doesn't, I'm not stressed about him and stressed about how I'm going to pay for it. I have a category for renovations for the house because we are always doing some kind of renovation on the house. I have a category for home decor, which includes my obsession with candles. I have a category for my hairstylist. I see her not that often, maybe 3 times a year, but she's a curly hair specialist. And if you have ever gone to a curly hair specialist, they not cheap. So I save up for that. My car registration is in here. My annual subscriptions, my Amazon, my Costco, things like that. I have a category for self-care. I even have a category for organizing, which I realize could go under home, but I don't know. I just love organizing things and planners and stuff. So I thought I'm just going to keep this under control by having its own separate category. And then I have a miscellaneous category, which is right now dedicated to my husband's birthday, which is the next big thing that's coming up. So that just gives you an idea of the categories that I use. Maybe it spawns you to think of some categories you might want to use. We'll take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll talk about actually budgeting your money and some other tips for making the system work really well for you. I just got my Echo stethoscope, and I can already tell it's going to be a game changer. If you've ever second guessed what you're hearing, you're not alone. I've been a nurse for 14 years, and I still do this. Thank goodness for Echo Health. Echo combines the stethoscope you already know with enhanced audio and advanced AI to help you detect heart and lung conditions earlier and with more confidence. With Echo, you can hear with precision even in noisy environments thanks to its ability to amplify sounds up to 40 times. You can also detect murmurs and AFib more easily and share the recordings with physicians for faster diagnosis. And since Echo is backed by 4 million heart sounds, those who use it are twice as likely to detect heart disease. I love how Echo provides visual and audio representation of heart rhythms. This makes it easier for me to recognize abnormalities, kind of like having a cardiology consult right in my pocket. I trust Echo so much that I worked with their team to create a special offer just for our listeners. Right now, you can get $50 off plus a free customizable chest piece cover at echohealth.com/nursemo. Your purchase is HSA and FSA eligible and may qualify for CEUs. Plus, Echo guarantees you'll detect heart and lung conditions more confidently. If you don't, return it for a full refund. Go to echohealth.com/nursemo for $50 off plus a free chest piece cover. That's ekohealth.com/nursemo.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream house or ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Okay, so far we have figured out income, expenses, figured out our categories, and made our envelopes. Now we're going to start really getting into the nitty-gritty of budgeting our money. So if you get paid monthly, you're going to make a monthly budget. If you get paid every 2 weeks, you'll plan your budget for every 2 weeks, etc. So what I like to do is print out a yearly calendar, and you can print one out for free at timeanddate.com or just Google free yearly calendar printable or something like that. Print that out and then write all your bill due dates on it. Make sure you remember to add those annual expenses too, so you don't forget something important like your car registration. And then you want to write in all of your paydays. And now you can kind of see when you're getting paid, what bills are coming due, so you get a feel for how your income and expenses are going to flow. Now, looking at your bills, you want to make sure that you put them into categories. For example, your electric bill would fall under utilities and your car payment would fall under auto, or, however you want to set it up. So make sure you have categories for your bills. And then in addition to paying your bills, you obviously have other expenses. You need to pay for gas, groceries, all those other variable expenses, those things that we talked about. So look back at your list and your expenditures and your budget. Like, okay, these are the things I can spend money on. This is how much I'm going to be spending money on, and add them to your list. And if you've got some expenses coming up, like the NCLEX, for example, my advice would be to include that and start planning for that now. So if you're just starting nursing school and you're in a 2-year program, all you would have to do is put a little bit of money into it every month, like $9. And by the time you graduate, you would already have your NCLEX paid for. That would be one less thing to stress about. And you might hear people referring to this as sinking funds. And this is simply because you've got a goal in mind, a thing you need to pay for, and you're sinking money into it in advance. I have a bunch of sinking funds. You heard me talk about like my husband's birthday and renovations. Like I'm sinking money into those so that when the time comes for those things, I've got the cash. So again, we're budgeting our money. If you're monthly, you're planning a monthly budget, you're listing out all your bills, you're listing out your variables, or for every 2 weeks. However you get paid is how we're going to structure our budget. So here is how I like to do it. This might help bring it to life. I get paid every 2 weeks, and I do not like having big expenses come out of any individual paycheck. I like it to be very predictable, and I want to spread it around so my budgeting is more consistent. So this helps me plan ahead. It helps me avoid running low on funds with any individual paycheck, because what happens if I run low, then guess what? I'm using my credit card, and then I'm getting with the next paycheck paying the credit card, and then it's just, a cycle, and I don't like that. So for example, let's say your rent is $1,200. Rather than have that big bill come out of one paycheck, you would put $600 into your rent envelope with each pay period if you got paid every 2 weeks or twice a month. That way, when rent is due, guess what? You've already got that money set aside. It's so amazing. I do this with all my expenses. So everything, what I did was I sat down and I looked at how much I spend every single month on stuff. And, sometimes it varies, right? So I'd kind of look at the average or what I thought should be a reasonable amount of money to spend on something. And then I took all my annual expenses and I added those in. Of course, I divided those by 12 to make them a monthly expense. And then I just took all those numbers and divided them in half. So every check I put basically half of all my expenses in, and with the next check, I put the other half. And by the time the thing is due, I go to my envelope, I pull up my money. It's already there. It's already paid for. So that is how I like to do it. So once you get your category set up, you figure out how much you're going to be putting into each of your envelopes, and it's payday time. Now we're going to the next step, and that is to actually get the cash and stuff your envelopes. So you go to the bank, get some cash, and be sure to get a variety of denominations. So what I like to do is I write it out on a little Post-it note. I want this many hundreds, this many 50s, this many 20s, 10s, and 5s. I don't get ones. I just round everything to the nearest 5, and it all kind of works out. Then you get home, you pour yourself a nice cup of tea, you go through your budget for that period, whether it's monthly or every 2 weeks, and you put the cash in the envelopes. And there you go. You have stuffed your envelopes, or you have used the envelope system. But there's a few more steps. The next step, and this is the hard one, is to spend only what's in the envelope. When it is gone, it is gone. This may mean not buying groceries for a few days and having to eat what's already in the pantry. And I know you got stuff in the pantry. I have stuff in my pantry or my freezer. I might have to actually eat the stuff that's in my freezer. Or it may mean holding off on getting a new sweater or something until your clothing budget is replenished. Whatever it is, you spend only what's in the envelope. Using cash is so much more tangible than just swiping a card. And I have found that it has really, really helped me to avoid overspending. And I'm much more conscious, that's a hard word to say, conscious of what I spend and what I spend it on. I'm also bringing in way less clutter into my house. So here's an example. Right now, I really need new bathroom rugs, really bad. Mine are white, which why did I do that? But they're white and now they've gotten kind of dingy and I can't get them nice and white again. And I just want to go get some new rugs. I want to run over to Home Goods and get some new rugs. But guess what? When I go to my envelope and I look at my home envelope, that girl's empty because I had to buy toilet paper and I had to buy garbage bags and I had to buy dishwashing detergent and all that boring stuff, which means I have to wait to go buy new rugs. The old me would have just swiped my credit card without thinking twice and got my rugs. But then I would have that bill come due and be like, again, where did all this money go? What did I buy? Now I'm much more intentional with my purchasing and where my dollars are going. And it really has taken a load of stress off of me. Now you might be asking about online purchases or times when maybe you're out and about and you don't have any cash with you and you use your debit card. Of course, you can still use a credit card to buy online things. You can still use your debit card if you don't want to run into the gas station and pay cash, right? You just want to tap your card at the pump. I get it. So you're obviously going to still be using digital payments. So what I do is I keep a piece of paper in my wallet, and if I'm out and I buy money with my card or I'm sitting at my computer and I buy something online, I write it down on that piece of paper and what category that item needs to come out of. And then on a regular basis, like every couple of weeks or so, maybe for you once a month would suffice, go through that list, categorize everything, and then pull money out of those envelopes and use that to basically pay yourself back. So I use my Capital One credit card because I'm all about getting as many travel points as I possibly can. But I'll be very clear here. I do not carry a balance on that card. I buy something online or I buy something at the grocery or wherever. If I don't have my cash with me, I immediately or very soon after pull cash from the appropriate envelope. And then once a week, once every 2 weeks, redeposit that money back into the bank and then before I even drive out of the parking lot, go online and put that onto my credit card. That way it never grows a balance. It doesn't get out of control. I'm not afraid to look at it, and I know exactly what I'm spending and where all my money is going. Now, if I used my debit card for a purchase, this money would just return to my bank account. And you may hear this process of pulling money out to pay for online purchases or digital purchases called unstuffing. So if you hear that term, that is what that means. All right, let's talk about savings. Now, in the cash stuffing world, people try to make saving fun, and they often call them savings challenges. I guess it gamifies savings a bit. So here's how a savings challenge works. And there's so many different types, but the premise basically is the same throughout. So let's say you want to save a certain amount of money for a specific thing, like maybe like a trip or a big purchase, and you have an envelope for that item, and you're regularly going to add to it. So for example, I really want to take a nice trip with my husband, maybe go to Italy, and that's going to be expensive, right? So I started a savings challenge for those plane tickets because that's one of the biggest expenses with travel, plane tickets and lodging. So I estimated that the tickets could cost up to about $4,800. That's something I'm just guessing, but that was a good guess, I think. So I've got a little slip of paper in that envelope, and it has circles on it, little circles printed on it, and each circle represents $90. So whenever I have an extra $90 laying around, I put it in this envelope and mark off one of the circles. So the nice thing about this is that I can visually see the progress I'm making, which is kind of nice. And when it comes time to plan this trip, I'll already have one of the biggest expenses already covered, which is great. I mean, that means I'm definitely taking this trip. Now, there are also smaller savings challenges out there, like a $5 savings challenge or a $10 savings challenge. There's even $1 savings challenges. And these are simply challenges where you stash away those bills and check off boxes for each one until you fill them all in. So for example, I've got a $5 savings challenge going, and by the time I fill in all the boxes, because I fill in a box every time I put $5 in the envelope, I'll have $270. Not bad. I can then use that money for whatever I want. I don't even know. Maybe I'll get those bathroom rugs. But I could also just take that $270 and roll it into another savings challenge, like maybe put it into my plane ticket savings challenge or whatever. It's really just a way to make saving a priority and make it also kind of fun, since you can see your progress as you go along. All right, couple other things you might be thinking about is paying down debt and digital options. So paying down debt like student loans, credit cards, or a car or whatever, you probably would love to pay those things off. And I think this also might be a Dave Ramsey thing, but it's called the snowball method. And what this involves is paying off debt in order of the smallest balance up to the largest balance. So once that smaller balance is paid, you then use that money and put it towards the next smallest balance. Next smallest, next biggest balance. And you snowball your way up until finally you're putting all of your money into whatever was your biggest balance. So for example, let's say you have 3 balances: a credit card of $1,000, a medical debt for $2,000, and a car loan for $5,000. You would make the minimum payments on your medical debt and your car loan while sinking as much as possible into that credit card. When that credit card is paid off, you then take the funds you're paying towards that card, and now you're paying it towards the medical debt. And then once that's paid off, you're taking all of it towards your car loan. So that is called the snowball method. Now, you need to look at this, especially if you have high balances and high interest rates on some of your loans. It might actually be more beneficial to pay off higher interest things first, which could save you more money in the long run. But the benefit of the snowball method by tackling those smaller debts first is that you feel a great sense of accomplishment. You get one thing completely off your plate, and then you can just focus on the next. So that's why it's so effective as a kind of a paying down debt discipline tool, and it also works. So that is one way to pay down debt. Now, you might also be wondering about digital options. If you don't like carrying cash, touching cash, dealing with cash, and just want to go fully digital, There are budgeting apps that can help you utilize this system. Popular ones are YNAB, which is You Need a Budget, and Good Budget. There's probably others out there, but these were two that I saw that looked to be pretty popular. So there you go. There's your step-by-step kind of how to start with the cash envelope system or the cash stuffing system for budgeting. And I'm going to warn you, if this appeals to you and you start watching YouTube videos or what have you, set aside, like, don't do this if you have an exam tomorrow, because you're going to get sucked in. And don't get sucked into thinking you have to make it beautiful and fancy like the people in the videos. They probably didn't start fancy either, but they probably saved up the money to buy all the cute binders and all the this and that. So don't feel like you have to compare yourself to anybody else. You can start super simple with some dollar store envelopes, okay? Totally fine. All right, so again, why does this system work? It is very visual. It's very tangible. It makes spending very, very real, whereas swiping a card kind of doesn't even feel like anything happened, right? It also helps with self-discipline and forces you to be mindful. Again, I've definitely spent a lot less on random impulse shopping since I started using this method. And I kind of get excited to cancel things. Like I canceled some subscriptions and memberships, and I don't even miss them. Like that's just gone, and I really feel good about it. It also reduces things like overdraft fees because you're sticking to your budget and not accidentally overspending. And it's also great if you've got a variable income, which a lot of students do. If you have inconsistent pay, that's even more reason to have a budget that you can rely on. Plus, it's also satisfying and I think kind of fun to track your progress visually as you watch your little savings challenges and things like that grow. So if you're a nursing student, nurse, whoever wanting to do this, my advice, start with just a few categories and refine as you get more accustomed to budgeting and kind of knowing where your money goes and how you spend it. I would also say do not carry your cash envelopes around with you everywhere. I keep a few in my wallet for things that I typically buy when I'm out and about, like groceries or dining out, but everything else is secured away at home. You should consider a lockbox or even a safe if you want to keep your cash secure at home, and then revisit and adjust regularly. Life as a student or a working nurse is anything but predictable. Alrighty, I hope this helped you think about budgeting, even if you have very limited income. Hope it helps you think about it in a different way so that you have ideally less financial stress and just knowing, like, maybe you've got an expense coming up, like your car registration. You're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this? If you're following a system like this, you already know how you're going to pay for it because it's worked into your plan. So again, nursing school, super stressful. You don't need extra stress. I would recommend checking this out. I hope that it works for you. And I hope that if this episode or any of my podcast episodes helps you be a better nursing student or more amazing nurse, that you subscribe or follow the show and leave a 5-star review. It would make my day. And I will see you back here very soon. Bye for now. This podcast is brought to you by Straight A Nursing, a proud member of the Airwave Media Network. For more educational podcasts, check out airwavemedia.com. And for more nursing-related content, go to straightanursingstudent.com.
You know where your business would be without you. Imagine where it could go with more of you. Well, with Wix, you can create a website with more of your vision, your voice, your expertise. Wix gives you the freedom to truly own your brand and do it on your own with full customization and advanced AI tools that help turn your ideas into reality. Grow your business into your online brand. Because without you, your business is just business as usual. Go to Wix.com.